My name is Megan Dickin. I served in the Peace Corps in Peru, 2009 through 2010, 1 year. The bad experience that I had was during training. What kind of starting in training and kind of went forward for a couple months was she was with me as well as our other host sister, and we went to a concert in Lima, a salsa concert, and later we were robbed at gunpoint by our taxi driver. So so she was with me through all that, and it was really scary, traumatic experience, being in a different culture and not fully having a full grasp of the language, and just all the adjustments anyway, and then to have something like that happen.
Been in the country?
I'd been there a month, and so everything was still just so fresh and trying to adapt, and so then that just kind of turned my world upside down, and but I think that drew us closer, she and I, and so we consider ourselves sisters now. But that that was such a tough time, and that kind of set a theme for much of my Peace Corps experience, and I really would have liked to have had a little bit more interaction or support from the medical side of the Peace Corps. I think that would, because I know that's like a new thing, that's coming out a lot about like the increased concentration on safety and security for volunteers, and
so expand a bit on that.
Well, because recently the I think it's called the Cape Poozy bill was put into effect. It was a young woman from Atlanta who was killed in Africa because she had told the Peace Corps about one of her counterparts in Africa, like harassing young girls and some things like that,
case,
right?
Yes.
And so she was killed by that man, as far as my knowledge goes. And so they put that kind of was the catalyst for this new bill about increasing the awareness and the efforts to make volunteers safer and more secure. But it goes beyond sexual assault, and I knew other volunteers who had been sexually assaulted, and I just think that the Peace Corps did, to an extent, I think what they thought they needed to do, but I see that there's definitely room for improvement with that, and also
in your case, what would you like to see them do more of?
I would have liked to see them would have liked to been offered counseling instead of having to seek it out, and being recognized by my friends that I needed some counseling, and have more I think training of the staff to recognize signs and symptoms that can indicate something more serious than just, I was scared. Because eventually, after a year, it came about that I was actually diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder because it wasn't treated properly in the beginning. Sorry, that's my phone. And just recognizing that instead of it being brushed off. Because I think when people are in a state of shock and after having a trauma, they don't know how to ask for help. And if people aren't trained to recognize the signs and symptoms and ask the right questions, it can just kind of slip under the rug, and then it gets worse. And so that's why I only did 1 year of service. I had a medical separation, because after the initial shock and trauma, it can accelerate and turn into post-traumatic stress disorder, which then leads to other like depression, anxiety, and so those are things that are hard to treat once they've kind of manifested for a while. And so I was medically separated so I could come home and get better and be out of the environment that triggered my memories and my because there were other things that happened later. Like there was another robbery of our hotel, and then I was attacked by some dogs, and I mean, it was just like one thing after another, and I just didn't feel like the the recognition of those symptoms was addressed. Like, it just wasn't addressed like it needed to be, until I finally had to really push for it. The thing about it is, that kind of thing can happen in the States. Bad things happen in the States. People get robbed, people get shot, but it's just the fact that, to me, it was so common for Peruvians to get robbed that when I talked about it with my program director, my health program director, she was a Peruvian, and she just shared a story about how she got robbed and the other Peruvians, and so it was kind of like, this is normal for us. But coming from the States, most of us who have made it into the Peace Corps come from areas that are not like that, where we see those kind of things and experience those things every day. And also, we come into the Peace Corps almost naively with the expectation that either that's not going to happen to me, even though we get told about it by the security officers, or just, we're here to do a good thing. And so that just overshadows, which I don't want to scare people away from going to the Peace Corps, because I think the Peace Corps is a great program and it is a good thing, and it makes you as a volunteer grow so much, and you build relationships with other people, and the cultural exchange is amazing. Like I said, I'm sisters with this girl in Peru. We consider ourselves sisters, but I think just preparing, and not only just like knowing that this stuff is going to happen and can happen, but having other people trained to follow up with you when it does happen and help you seek the resources that are needed to get through it and get over it, because you don't have a strong support system, because you don't know all these people, these volunteers that are with you. You barely know your trainers. You're basically alone. Whereas if it happens in the States, usually you have friends and families, and you're kind of established, and you have your home to go to where you feel safe, and where everything there is just upside down. You're in another part of the world, different cultures, you're trying to get on buses and people are yelling at you, and you're trying to make change in your head in a different language. I mean, it's just, everything is so different that there's nothing stable. And so that's another contributing factor to the development of post-traumatic stress disorder, is not having a strong support system and not having like a stable environment. And so I think just, having follow-up and having trained counselors to ask the right questions, because I don't feel like I was asked all the right kind of questions. And later on, my aunt was talking to me about, because I would cry all the time, and I'm like, why do I hate it here? And I wouldn't leave. I would refuse to quit, because I'm not a quitter, and I was so determined. And I wanted to have my Peace Corps experience and finish, but eventually just the symptoms were just getting overwhelming, and my aunt talked to me about, maybe you have PTSD, and I looked online at the questions, and I don't remember ever having been asked these specific questions, and I was like, it's so apparent, and why did it never, why was it never addressed like this? And so, because the Peace Corps can't prevent bad things from happening, but it's how you deal with it and how you are supported through it to get through it in a healthy way, and not just having to sit with it and trying to figure out, how do I get past this? Because it's normal in that culture, it's typical, and for us it's not, and so our frame of reference is completely different about it too, and I think that's what makes it hard. Mm-hmm. So, and yeah, hearing about it from the security officer and hearing about the percentages of this and this, it's not real, and it's never real until it really happens to you, but having the kind of support that you need to get through it is, I think, the key. Because, like I said, they can't stop things from happening, because things happen here. But having the resources and knowing how to get those, and having your friends and your superiors recognize that and not just brush it off, is the key. When your life is just turned upside down, it's just, it can be so debilitating and make you a different person, make you not the person you were. And being able to finally like rise out of that has been such a challenge, but it's also been a good experience because it's opened my eyes to a lot of things. And if I could help other people or help make Peace Corps a better experience for other people, because like I said, I have a family legacy of it, and it is a great program. So if I can make it that much better, that would be spectacular. I think that would be, because I don't know how many people feel like this and never talk about or have it addressed. And yeah, the sexual assault is huge, and I'm so lucky that never happened, that we were not hurt, shot, or sexually assaulted by our taxi robber. But anything can be traumatic, just like you said. Witnessing a traumatic event can cause PTSD, and it just changes your life so much, and other people don't really recognize it. And PTSD is not, it's becoming more recognized, and people are taking it more seriously, but it's not just for soldiers who come from the war. It can be from anything, and especially, and a soldier is prepared to fight, and they're prepared to see people get killed and to kill, and they go in with weapons to defend themselves, and we go into the Peace Corps promoting peace, and not even being allowed to carry mace or anything to defend ourselves. And so when you're kind of thrown into the same type of situation, because in a developing country there's a lot of poverty and desperation, and people are willing to do those things. People are more willing to rob and to pickpocket you and to assault you and to do what they need to do to survive. And so it's just so unexpected that it can really just impact you on such a great level. And when you don't know how to deal with it. And part of the development of PTSD comes from the fight or flight response. Because when you're threatened, you either you need to get out, or you need to fight. That's what your body, your brain, your instincts are telling you. But you can't do that. You can't do anything. You're trapped. And so that moment stays trapped in your lower brain centers, in your nervous system. And that's why the symptoms continue, because you couldn't do anything with your instincts to protect yourself. And so it just stays with you. And I just hate to see other volunteers go through that and not get the help that they need.
How would you pick out to make sure the other person is enough? You're going.
Yeah. So yeah, I would love to, if this could help somebody else. And I was bitter for a while, but I love the Peace Corps, and I love what my grandfather did, and I love what he did to save the Peace Corps, because actually while he was director, it was the government was thinking about cutting the program entirely, and he was actually able to save it. And so I want it to be a good thing, and just have all the resources that we need to make it.